Morning, everybody. It's 7 o'clock on Christmas Eve. A cautious Christmas message from the Prime Minister ahead of family time, but a hint of optimism from one top doctor around the latest Omicron data. We'll talk to the boss of NHS providers this morning to find out what's happening in our hospitals, and will we all need to get a fourth jab? It's Christmas Eve. The Prime Minister says Omicron is surging and warns us to protect our elderly relatives this Christmas, but top doctor is cautiously optimistic with risk of hospitalisations low.
When Omicron is surging, well, we all know we must together try to stop the spread of this new variant. We must test ourselves and take extra care when meeting elderly or vulnerable relatives.
It's very early days. Only a small number of individuals, about 100, were admitted to hospital with Omicron in this period. But nonetheless, it is first signs of cautious optimism we can have for a while.
Currying favour with the Health Secretary, we visit the Bradford restaurant that's got vindaloo and vaccines on the menu. A personal touch, a new picture of the Queen as she prepares for her first Christmas message since the death of her husband.
And I'm here at Windsor Castle, where the Queen will spend Christmas with Prince Charles and Camilla.
Guilty. The former US police officer who said she mistakenly fired her gun instead of a taser, killing 20-year-old motorist Diane Wright.
Head of Linn County, state of Minnesota, find the defendant guilty.
Fresh diplomatic boycott as Japan says it won't send government officials to the Beijing Winter Olympics. And a Chinese city locks down because of COVID-19.
Dynamite decision. The car owner who decided to blow up his vehicle with dynamite as it was too pricey to repair.
Driving home for Christmas.
And as we wait to find out what's made the festive #1 later on today, we'll talk to one singer who's been driving all his songs home for Christmas. And we'll find out how to keep your pets safe this Christmas with an animal behaviourist at 7:30. Morning, everybody. The Prime Minister has released his Christmas message saying Omicron is surging and has urged people to get tested and be careful when visiting elderly and vulnerable relatives. But one top doctor at the UK Health Security Agency says she is cautiously optimistic about the latest Omicron data and the lower risk of hospitalisation. Analysis by the UK Security Health Agency shows that people with Omicron are 30 to 45% less likely to go to A and E than with the Delta variant. They're also between 50 and 70% less likely to be admitted to hospital. But the study also found that the effect of the booster vaccine against the variant wanes after 10 weeks. The Christmas message from the Prime Minister still has a note of caution, as Sadia Chowdhury reports.
Just a day until Christmas, and the Prime Minister and the leader of the opposition want the focus to be on festivities and praising people for helping each other out.
We know that things remain difficult, but for millions of families up and down the country, I hope and believe that this Christmas is and will be significantly better than the last. And though the time for buying presents is theoretically running out, there is still a wonderful thing you can give your family and the whole country, and that is to get that jab.
In the darkest of times, Christian values of kindness, of compassion and hope have shone through. Communities have come together to help one another. Key workers have saved countless lives.
With no mention of new restrictions, there are questions about the way forward.
For me, nothing's changed because it's just at home with families.
Compared to sort of Scotland and Wales that have tightened things up a bit, I think we should have done a little bit more sooner.
I think the main thing is, the cases are going up, but their death rates are still quite low. Obviously, one death too many, but they are staying low.
Nothing's changed. Everything under control.
As the country prepares to stop for a few days, the NHS is pressing on. Festivities will continue, and so will the vaccine programme, with jabs being administered on Christmas and Boxing Day. It comes as COVID cases hit a record high again. Latest data shows the UK recorded 119,789 new COVID cases in the latest 24-hour period. That's the highest daily figure since the start of the pandemic. But there is some optimism from new research.
It shows that people with Omicron have a reduced risk of hospitalisation compared to Delta. Now, it's very early days. Only a small number of individuals, about 100, were admitted to hospital with Omicron in this period. But nonetheless, it is first signs of cautious optimism we can have for a while.
For that optimism to last, infections will need to be curbed. These scenes from last night of an unusually quiet Soho suggest that could be a possibility. Sadia Chowdhury, Sky News in London.
OK, so let's look at the latest COVID data for you, should we? As you heard earlier, 119,789 new cases of COVID-19 were reported for the latest 24-hour period, another single-day record. 147 more people have died, sadly, taking the number of people who have died within 28 days of a positive COVID test to 147,720. More than 39,000 people have received their first dose of the vaccine, 53,000 their second. That means that more than 47 million people have now received 2 doses. 840,000 boosters were given, meaning nearly 31.7 million people have now had their jab, or their booster. OK, let's speak to Oksana Pizik, leader of the Outbreak Educational Programme in Infectious Diseases at UCL. Hello to you. Thanks for joining us on the programme this morning. From reading this morning's newspapers, there does seem some cautious optimism around ahead of Christmas.
Well, I certainly think this is news that many people have been hoping for. However, cautious optimism is the right word. Many of these epidemiological studies are predictors because it's only using a very small number of people who have been hospitalized so far to make these predictions from. So looking at 100 people is very different than a population-wide effect. So that's one thing. The second thing is, of course, we have now record-breaking cases of COVID. So that's also going to mean that when we have Christmas tomorrow, lots of intergenerational mixing at hand, that could also change the trajectory as we go into the new year.
But we have had increasing numbers. I mean, yesterday, I think, was the highest number ever since we were aware of the pandemic. But the number of people in hospital with Omicron is still relatively low, isn't it?
Absolutely. We know that there is a lag effect. So when we're going to have peak mixing today, tomorrow, over the holidays as well, we can see that there will be about a 2-week delay before we start to see those hospital numbers creep up. But I think the NHS is really bracing itself for that. And it's not just about number of hospitalizations, it's also disruption around that. In the NHS as well, we see 1 in 10 health workers have also become sick with COVID or are off at the moment, which adds additional pressure to the system. So certainly in the next coming weeks, it's this cautious optimism doesn't mean we shouldn't drop our guard. Getting boosted is one of the most important things people can do. And I think that we've already heard it's the best Christmas gift you can give.
When we look back at the vaccines that people were given in the UK, it does look as though AstraZeneca perhaps not as effective as some of the other vaccines.
Certainly, and that's why we see that the booster jab is very likely to be an mRNA vaccine, so either Pfizer or Moderna, to help top up that layer of protection. Unfortunately, there is already even some waning with these boosters. However, it's important to get during a winter season like this to get that maximum protection. But I think going forward, what this indicates is that we may have a new generation of vaccines that pharmaceutical companies are already working on that are variant specific, particularly because with Omicron, we see there have been so many mutations that just make it so much more adept at entering the cells within the body. So while we have that issue at hand, we also need to think about making sure the rest of the world is also vaccinated so that we really stop this whole cycle of new variants emerging.
So to that end, that puts us in a difficult position here in the United Kingdom, doesn't it? Because people like me that had their booster more than 10 weeks ago, that means that my immunity is now waning against any new variants of Omicron or of COVID-19. But also have to think about friends and colleagues in South Africa and other countries that have not yet had their first vaccine.
Absolutely. And in terms of knowing that your vaccine effectiveness wanes over time, that shouldn't worry people too much, in the sense that there's also B and T cell activity that helps to keep immune response up. But it does mean that we may need to look towards a different solution going forward. We see that Israel's solution has been to roll out a fourth jab. That's not necessarily the only way to go. But globally, it's up to leaders and for the public to put pressure on leaders to say, we want out of this pandemic faster. And we think that that's a really important issue for ensuring that health workers who are the highest risk currently right now in Africa, only 1 in 4 healthcare workers who are on the front line have even their 2 jabs, let alone a booster. So really a global issue, but we seem to find that lesson really hard to learn elsewhere.
If not a fourth jab, then what?
Again, I'm thinking we're looking at something very similar to just a yearly dose. So this could be the 1 year where we're looking at potentially having top-up doses. But after that, I think we'll be looking at something just like the flu jab, where they adapt it based on the strain that's circulating, potentially a multivalent vaccine. And there are companies that are working on vaccines that that are effective across multiple variants. So that's really exciting work that's happening. And I think we're not too far away from it.
Okay, good to talk to you. Thanks for your expertise. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Take care. Thank you. Now, charities and aid agencies say the rollout of the COVID booster jab has highlighted the level of vaccine inequality across the globe. The UK, US and EU have received more doses of COVID-19 vaccines in the 6-week run-up to Christmas than countries across Africa have received all year. Just talking about that, weren't we? Between the 11th of November to the 21st of December, 513 million doses of COVID-19 vaccine were given to the UK, US and EU. That's 13 million more than the 500 million doses given to countries across Africa throughout the entire year. Just 8.6% of people across the continent have been fully vaccinated to date, and with estimates suggesting it could take until April of 2023 for everyone to receive their first dose at the current rate of delivery by vaccine manufacturers.
If we don't vaccinate people everywhere in the world, variants like Omicron are going to arise in low vaccinated parts of the world, and they're going to come back and bite us. And that we've been warning about this for months now. I'm very sad to say that it's come true.
Well, the Queen's Christmas Day message is expected to be a particularly personal one this year, as she prepares to spend her first festive period since the death of Prince Philip at Windsor. The Queen will spend Christmas at Windsor, which is where we have now sent Emma this morning, a little bit easier than trotting up to Sandringham for some of us. Hello to you, Emma. A very good morning. Bittersweet because her son will be with her, but sadly, her husband of 70-odd years not so.
Yes, I mean, an immensely sad year for the Queen, the loss of her husband in April at the age of 99 after more than 73 years of marriage. And the photograph which has been released was taken here at Windsor Castle in the White Drawing Room as her Christmas message was being recorded, which will be broadcast tomorrow at 3 p.m, as is traditional, on Christmas Day. And in that photograph, she is wearing a chrysanthemum brooch, a particularly important brooch to her. It's one that she wore on her honeymoon, a photograph that was taken with the Duke of Edinburgh in 1947. And again, that photo recreated in 2007 for their diamond wedding anniversary. And it's that photograph which is in a frame on the desk in this latest image, which has been released for us now in advance of Christmas. And the message that we hear about is we never get any detail, but we're told to expect it to be particularly personal because of reminiscences about the loss of her husband this year. And she will be joined here at Windsor Castle with her son, Prince Charles, and his wife, the Duchess of Cornwall.
OK, Emma, thanks. That scene behind you there, Emma, looks like the opening scene of a Jack the Ripper movie or something. It's really spooky.
There's a certain mistiness here this morning.
We'll see you when it's light. Thanks a lot. Still to come on the programme before you will find out how to keep your pets safe this Christmas with an animal behaviourist. Will it snow on Christmas Day? What are the chances of a white Christmas? 7:40, speaking to a meteorologist from the Met Office to find out. Meantime, a white police officer who said she confused her handgun for a taser has been convicted of manslaughter in the death of a 20-year-old black motorist, Dante Wright, in a case which caused civil rights protests right across the US. The judge, Regina Chu, read the verdict to Mrs. Potter.
The jury on the charge of manslaughter in the first degree while committing a misdemeanor on or about April 11, 2021, in Hennepin County, state of Minnesota, find the defendant guilty. We, the jury on the charge of manslaughter in the second degree, culpable negligence on or about April 11, 2021, in Hennepin County, state of Minnesota, find the defendant guilty.
Well, the killing of Mr. Wright provoked angry protests in Minneapolis by Black Lives Matter supporters who highlighted the number of cases in which white police officers have killed black suspects. Outside court, there were celebrations when the jury's decision was read out, and Mr. Wright's family said they were happy with the verdict.
All right, everybody, we've been fighting for a long time. It's been a long 9 months. Yes. We can't speak too much about everything, but we're happy with the verdict. We're happy with the guilty. And we're not doing this for nobody but for my mom and my pops. Yeah.
In other news, Japan, which hosted the last Olympics, will not be sending a government delegation to next year's Winter Olympics in China, joining other countries which have refused to send ministers because of human rights issues. Let's speak to our Asia correspondent, Tom Cheshire, who is standing by for us in Beijing. It's a growing list, Tom.
Morning, Kay. Yes, it is. It was the US who kicked this all off, announcing they wouldn't be sending any officials to the Olympics. The UK, of course, joined them, Canada, Australia, but not every country has gone the same way. France, which will host the next Summer Olympics in Paris, said it will send a delegation. For Japan, a bit of a tricky situation. It really has to walk the line here. The US is obviously an ally, but China is a very big economic partner. It's right on its doorstep. And also, China was helpful to Japan during the Summer Olympics in Tokyo. They supported those going ahead despite COVID. So what Japan has done here, I think, is a sort of half-in, half-out diplomatic boycott. It didn't use the terminology diplomatic boycott, but it won't be sending government ministers. On the other hand, it is going to send some dignitaries from its Olympic committee. So I think this is one of the moves that probably won't anger China quite as much as we've seen from other countries, especially the US and the UK, the Five Eyes Intelligence Sharing Alliance, all not sending government officials. I think China also has its own worries right now in terms of COVID in the country. In the last few days, Xi'an, which is the home of the famous terracotta warriors, city of 13 million people, has been put into lockdown, a very strict lockdown, the strictest since we saw in Wuhan in the early days of the pandemic. Households are only allowed to send one person out every 2 days to buy essential supplies. The whole city is being tested. These are very severe restrictive measures. You might be wondering how many cases they've got in Xi'an, especially when we're talking earlier in the programme about more than 100,000 cases yesterday in the UK. Well, Xi'an yesterday recorded 52 cases, just 52 cases, and as a result, they have locked the entire city down with no end to that lockdown in sight. That's how seriously China is taking COVID ahead of the Olympics and still pursuing that zero COVID strategy.
OK, Tom, thanks. New figures suggest that on average, 80 officers are assaulted every day in the UK. Data gathered by the PA news agency has shown there were more than 7,000 assaults against police officers, constables and volunteers in just 3 months in 2021. The Police Federation of England and Wales says the figures should concern everybody.
We've seen an increase in assaults against police officers where offenders are weaponising COVID in spitting at them or telling them that they've got other infectious diseases. And we've also seen the level of violence that's being offered to police officers increase significantly. Only this week, we've had an officer from Nottingham who had scalding water thrown over him.
Ryanair has more than doubled its annual loss forecast over Omicron. The airline expects a loss of up to €450 million in the year to the end of March and has cut the expected number of passengers by a third for January. It's been blamed on the French and German ban of UK arrivals and suspension of flights to and from Morocco. One man in Finland has found an interesting way to dispose of his Tesla vehicle. He encountered problems with his car. And then when he basically went to have it repaired, he was told it would cost up to £16,000. That's what he did. Instead, he took it to a quarry and then he decided that he would have it blown up by dynamite there. They also had a poke at Tesla's CEO, Elon Musk, by making him the stuntman in the driver's seat. Bet they don't use that in their adverts. Now, according to the Daily Mail, the Queen will pay tribute to her late husband, Prince Philip, in her Christmas broadcast. The Mirror also leads with Her Majesty's speech and the headline, "Always by her side." The Eye ties together to the news that the Omicron variant of COVID appears to be milder than its predecessors, with the government's announcement that there won't be any further decisions about restrictions in England until after Christmas. The Times says millions of people may need a fourth COVID jab because protection from a booster starts to wane after as little as 10 weeks. Vaccines and Vindaloos will be on the menu in Bradford at a curry house. It's hosting a walk-in coronavirus jab clinic in a first-of-its-kind trial by the NHS. My Lahore, a British Asian restaurant in Bradford, will offer first, second and booster inoculations. We sent Fraser along to find out more.
This Indian restaurant in Bradford has cooked up a way of helping out with the push to get everyone boosted. So, along with your poppadoms and naans, you can also ask for a side order of COVID-19 vaccine, whether you're staff or a diner.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea because you can hang out with your friends, have something to eat and get a jab and go home.
The restaurant has previously partnered with the NHS to vaccinate their staff and to host Q&A sessions for anyone with concerns about the vaccinations.
A lot of our team members wanted to do the vaccine anyway, but they just don't have the time. So we thought we'll create a platform for customers and team members where they can come, and if there's somebody who wants to take the jab, and it just because of convenience, they can take it. And same with the team members, if they want to take it whilst at work, they can do so.
In the 7 days up to Monday, there were over 2,000 positive test results in Bradford, an increase of 33% on the week before. But vaccination levels are comparatively low. In the area around the restaurant, less than 50% of over 12s have had their first dose, compared to almost 90% nationally. And only 39% have had a second dose. Across the rest of the UK, that total is over 80%.
We appreciate that some people are cautious, and it is our job, and we are spending a lot of time to encourage as many people as we can to come forward and have the vaccination. So we've created a lot of accesses such as this walk-in access, clinics throughout the district to encourage people to come forward and where they feel comfortable to have that vaccine.
The restaurant is one of dozens of pop-up and walk-in clinics around the country, which the NHS hopes will make it easier for people to get vaccinated, even those who feel they already have a lot on their plate over Christmas. Fraser Maud, Sky News, Bradford.
Time for some sights and sounds from around the world now. We start with some festive cheer from Italy. How's this for true Christmas spirit? Abseiling Santas have delivered Christmas gifts to children at a hospital in Rome. Members of the Italian Alpine Rescue, as you can see, managed to rappel down the paediatric ward at the Umberto Hospital, much to the joy of young and old inside. After completing 3 abseils from a chimney and from the roof of the paediatric ward, the Santas went inside the hospital to deliver presents to the children. Less than 2 hours to go before Santa sets off on his annual trip, delivering billions of presents to children right around the world. The US Aerospace Defense Command, NORAD, has their virtual Santa tracker ready to give us updates on Santa's every move, so you'll know exactly when he's flying over your home, kids. He's due to set off at 9 o'clock London time, so we'll obviously bring that to you live just as soon as he sets off. He's doing the last bit of packing on the sleigh. The reindeers are just having their carrots, and they'll be ready to go very soon. Don't miss it. Now, looking at some of the best pictures making the morning papers for you today, it's Santa Claus. The Daily Mail has this picture of a 60-foot Father Christmas drawing in the sand made by a former GP on Beadnell Bay in Northumberland. That's pretty impressive, isn't it? The Sun is Manic Monday, which is about the final few business days when certain people rush to get their Christmas shopping in, including those guys on motorbikes. The Guardian has this picture of the Grinch and an assistant entertaining youngsters outside Hamley's toy shop on Regent Street. It's always scary, the Grinch, isn't he? And all the jingle babies. The Mirror is showing some cute pictures of newborns in their first festive photo shoot. Just look how cute they look. Yeah, but we can go one better than that. Ryan and Rachel sent us this photo of their adorable newborn. There he is. How cute is he? If you've got pictures you'd like to show us of your newborn in their Santa outfits or whatever, you can tweet me directly if you would like to at Burley. That's gorgeous, isn't it? Beautiful little baby. Born on the 9th of December. Still to come, we have the sport with Hannah. Now, are we going to have a white Christmas? We've got the Met Office with us very shortly, but here's a little teaser.
Look forward to brighter skies. The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
OK, this is the way it's looking so far this Friday morning. Watch out for that band of rain heading our way. I believe it's going to be pretty miz today and tomorrow. Will we see snow on Christmas morning, though? We'll have more on that, as I said, coming up with the Met Office very shortly.
The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
Now, sticking with pets, let's show you some pictures from Ireland this morning. Staff at a shelter in Dublin have captured the reaction of rescue dogs as they're let loose on a room full of new toys for Christmas. How lovely. The toys were donated by supporters of the Dogs Trust. Workers laid them out on the floor of the training barn at the centre before letting the dogs in one by one to choose a favourite toy to keep and take back to their kennel. It's squeaking, isn't it? So he's not sure about that one, but he finally decides that that is the one for him. He wants more than one. But nope, just we've got to share. Now, for many, this will be the first Christmas with a new pet, with many getting a dog or cat during lockdown. The holidays can be filled with hidden dangers for pets, though. So let's find out what you need to look out for to avoid a trip to the vets. Joining us now is Claire Haynes, animal behaviourist at the Blue Cross Pets charity. Hi, thanks for joining us. Who's that with you?
This is Eric.
Hello, tell me about Eric.
So Eric is about 11 years old and he's a crossbreed. So he's very big, but he's got short little legs. And he was with rescue as well. So he was a stray originally.
Lovely. Now, I'm guessing you don't give him mince pies, do you?
No, we definitely don't.
Tell us why.
So there's a lot of foods and drinks that we indulge in over the festive period that are actually toxic to our pets. So one example being the raisins and currants and sultanas that are in things like mince pies and Christmas pudding. So it can actually make them really unwell.
Yeah. Claire, I remember once having friends round for Christmas. There were loads of us. We had to get the emergency chairs out the shed. And we'd eaten so much food that we didn't want the Christmas cake. So we put it up high. And then we were going to come back to it after we'd watched Strictly or something. And as we came back in, the Labrador of my friend had literally finished the last mouthful of the whole Christmas cake. He was as sick as a dog, if you'll forgive the pun, for several days later. But that could have killed him, couldn't it?
Yeah, and absolutely. And a lot of the time that we see animals ingesting food over Christmas, it's just that, it's an accident. It might not be that we've given it to them deliberately, but actually we've put it on the side. We're maybe going to clear the plates later or take food off the table later on. And yeah, we've got an opportunist in the house that might take advantage of it. But absolutely, in worst case scenarios, it can be fatal.
Especially Labradors, and they can jump higher than I thought they could as well. That's a lesson learned for me. I'm glad to pass that on. But not just food. Got to watch out for the tinsel.
Yeah, so a lot of our decorations as well. So across our animal hospitals each year, we often end up treating pets who've consumed tinsel, potpourri, eating bits of baubles and bits of the tree and that sort of thing. So it might even be what you've put out to make the house look nice that you don't think your pets will be as interested in. But the novelty and the excitement mean that they might take that opportunity.
Yeah, one of the other issues I've had in the past is real trees and dogs inside. We know what happens there, don't we?
Yeah, it can be a bit calamitous, can't it, with pets and real trees.
Yeah, especially if you've got lights on the trees as well. You need to be really, really careful with that. Ruins everybody's presents, ruins the trees, etc., etc. So what do we need to do when it comes to having lots of people around as well? Because some dogs, especially if they've been in shelters, are not used to having so many humans around. You need to be careful not to leave them with the babies and that sort of thing.
Absolutely. And like you mentioned at the beginning, there's millions more pets in UK homes than there were at the beginning of the pandemic. So for a lot of animals, it's their first Christmas, or certainly after last Christmas, it's their first one when people can come round and there'll be lots of celebrations. So taking steps like you try to with the cake, of whether it's food, keeping that well out of the way, keeping your pets supervised, and always making sure they've got somewhere quiet to go to. So as you can see, like Eric, he likes a good sleep. So making sure that if there is a lot of noise and hubbub, they've got somewhere they can go to where they won't be disturbed.
I hope you have a wonderful Christmas. Thanks for highlighting that for us, Claire. Thanks a lot. Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Kay. Merry Christmas.
Meantime, the Queen's Christmas Day message is expected to be a particularly personal one this year. She loves dogs, doesn't she, as well, as she prepares to spend her first festive period since the death of Prince Philip in Windsor. Joining us now, royal biographer Angela Levin. Hi, Angela. Always great to see you. Thank you. Her dogs will offer her great comfort, won't they, at Christmas time?
Oh, yes. I mean, people who are dog lovers feel that they're almost like human, or maybe that's me as a not particular person who doesn't have pets. But I think that the warmth and the recognition that dogs can sense how you're feeling and look after you a bit is very rewarding.
Indeed so. Now, she's got Charles with her and Camilla, hasn't she, on Christmas Day. That will offer a great deal of comfort. But the Princess Royal not there?
No, because her husband's been found positive for COVID, so she has to keep well away. I think it's wonderful that Prince Charles and the Duchess of Cornwall are coming, because if you look back, the Queen would have nothing to do with her. She didn't think she was right for her son, and she just avoided going anywhere where she thought she was. And now they're really close. I mean, they've got a lot in common, like horses and indeed dogs. But I think it's a real turnaround when she's seen the Duchess for who she is, how hard she's working, what a positive effect she's had on Prince Charles. He's happy, he's more relaxed. And he's got somebody who's very loyal and stable by his side. And I think that she's now really recognise that in the fact that she would want them to spend such an important day with her. It just shows you. I mean, the Duchess has a belief that if you wait long enough, things can turn round. And I think this is one example of that.
She's waited a long time, it has to be said. It's been a long time.
I mean, that is really a great love story, isn't it? That if you wait 35 years, then your mother-in-law will invite you for Christmas. Now, that's just a joke. But, I think it is, that's true love, really, that they just waited for each other and they wouldn't let go whatever happened.
Tell me about her message, Angela, because we have seen pictures, people will see the pictures on the front pages of the papers today, and she is wearing the brooch, I think, that Philip bought her many, many years ago.
No, that brooch was given to her by her father.
Oh, was it?
Thought that it matched her eyes. The stone matched her eyes. But she wore it on her honeymoon with Prince Philip. And then last year, when they celebrated 70 years of marriage. And I think it's very interesting that she's chosen a bright, very bright, Christmassly red dress to wear, because although we hear that it's going to be very personal and she's going to talk about her late husband, she wants to show that she's still strong and she's there. And this is a day which we must celebrate. And it's a very important religious day for her. And I think in the photograph, she looks a little strained.
She does. She does. I thought that. Yeah.
But determined to go on.
And what about the fact that she's at Windsor rather than Sandringham?
Well, I think that's sensible, isn't it? I mean, there was due to be 50 members of the family there, which is an enormous number. And with small children and teenagers, and it's quite difficult because you can catch COVID without them having any symptoms or indeed not even knowing they've got it. So I think that's wise, and to have a quiet Christmas with intimate members of the family. And then I think she might go up to Sandringham later and enjoy the countryside there. She doesn't usually come back until the 6th of February. And so I think she might well do that, but have a hullabaloo.
I think I might adopt that as well, actually, Angela. I think I might go for that, see what the boss says. Last day tomorrow until the 6th of Feb. Let's see. It's good to talk to you, Angela. Thank you so much. Merry Christmas. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye. We've been trying to be a little bit more upbeat for you this morning, this Christmas Eve. We've seen beautiful babies in their Christmas outfits. We've seen Santa abseiling down the outside of a paediatric unit in Rome. We've also seen the fact that Santa is about to start delivering presents from 9 o'clock this morning. We'll bring you the very latest on that. And now we've got a bit of this. Experts have hailed the birth of a rare baby white rhino at a UK zoo as a little miracle. There he is. The southern white rhino calf was born at Africa Alive near Lowestoft in Suffolk last Saturday, the 18th of December. The species was previously hunted to almost extinction, but the success of conservation has seen numbers grow to around 18,000, although we were talking to an expert earlier in the week that was telling us that poaching in Africa is on the rise again, particularly because of the pandemic. But that's a little bit of a ray of sunshine. Not sure what that calf is called, but she looks a pretty healthy. Mum watching on. You wouldn't argue with her, would you? No, you would not. Coming up, we'll be looking through the newspapers for you. Time for the papers, the Christmas Eve papers. Joining us, journalist and author Yasmin Alabai-Brown and broadcaster Pete Price. Hello to you both. Good morning.
Hi.
Hi. How old are you? Right behind me. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Let's start with you, Yasmin. Should we talk to me about the front page of the Times newspaper?
Well, this is quite an important story. They're talking about some people having to have a fourth jab. And we know that there are some people whose immune systems have been compromised by medication or other illnesses they have. But this story also talks about the fact that the booster, in any case, according to some new research, only really works for the first 3 months. And its effectiveness really fades after that, which I did not know. I can't remember. I had my booster quite a long time ago. So does this mean we're going to keep having to take jabs with corona until it finally kind of becomes, manageable? I don't know. But it is an important story.
It is. I actually put those questions that you've just asked, journalists that you are, to an epidemiologist earlier, and they were saying that it does wane after 10 weeks, but there are all sorts of T cells and other things that build up as well. So we don't have to worry too much about it. But she did think that we would find ourselves in a position, well, a bit like the flu vaccine, we'd have to have it once a year as opposed to once every 10 weeks, which is good news, because being a needle phobe, I don't want to have a jab every 10 weeks if I can possibly help it. Lighten the mood for us, but if you would, please, and talk to us about Morecambe and Wise.
I will indeed, as it's Christmas.
Hey, look at that. Fantastic.
The thing is, they've found, Gary, Eric's son, has found a new, an old version of Morecambe and Wise, a show that's never been seen. And it's been in black and white. They've coloured it up, and it's going out on Christmas Day. So we've got the Queen's speech, and we've now got Morecambe and Wise, a brand new episode, which I think is wonderful. And I can't believe I'm actually working with Kay Burley. This is the best Christmas present ever for me.
You know what? Not everybody says that, but thank you very much indeed for that. I appreciate it. And Yasmin, we can sit down with the Queen's speech after having had our turkey and watching Morecambe and Wise with a glass of champagne.
Well, this is this is the FT story that investors are making a fortune by investing in champagne, the top range. And I mean, the prices are extraordinary. You can get 12 bottles of something called Salon 2002 for a mere £10,000. It's sort of champagne capitalism.
That's unbelievable.
How the rich live.
Do you have a glass of champagne with your Christmas lunch, Yasmin, or not bother?
Oh yes, I do have a couple of glasses. But I'm not a big drinker. I do like fizz. But that's about it. I'm very old-fashioned. I love sherry. Nobody drinks sherry anymore.
No. Gives you a thick head, though, doesn't it, sherry?
Yeah, but a little bit. You see, it's this sweet little drink. I used to always love it.
Pete, what do you... I've always worked Christmas Day for donkey's years. I'm doing it again tomorrow morning. And my little boy is now 28, but ever since he was like 6, he was trained to be at the front door when I got home with a glass of champagne at 10:15. What do you do? What's your Christmas ritual, Pete?
I'll be drinking champagne, but I've got a day off. Like you, I've always worked Christmas for the last 50 years, and when we've done Panto, I've always had the day off.
No, you haven't.
Oh, stop it! Stop it! In fact, I will tell you very quickly, I did that wonderful pantomime with Cilla Black when she came out of retirement. She stood on the stage, she had the baddie, she went, "How shall I kill him?" And somebody shouted, "Sing to him!"
I love that. Before I let you go, guys, what is Christmas going to mean to you this year, given that, it's very different to last year, but we still have to be careful, don't we? Yasmin, to you first of all.
Yeah, I think we're still going very slowly on this because of the number of infections, and the story seems to be changing every day. But we are a little bit freer this year, which must make I know it has made millions of people really happy. But as one of the messages is, don't go overboard. Keep it small, keep it sweet.
Yeah, exactly that, with a glass of sherry. What about you, Pete?
No, I'm going to take it easy. I'm going to see my friends. By the way, Kay, I've got to tell you, Carol Vorderman's birthday's today, and she's watching right now. I'm chuffed to death. So I shall drink her health as well.
There we go. Yeah, she's exactly a week younger than me, Carol, I think. Yeah. We're not saying how old we are, Carol, are we? But what I will say is we're both younger than Madonna. It's good to see both of you. Merry Christmas. Thank you so much for joining. Hey! Show off. It's good to see you. Thanks a lot. Thank you. And a very, very happy Christmas, Carol. It's always great to see you on the telly. Hopefully we'll see you soon. Maybe come and have a chat to us tomorrow morning on the telly box. I will be here, as I said, from 6 o'clock in the morning. Coming up in the next hour, though, we're going to be talking in more detail about the latest on Omicron. There is some cautious optimism from the government this morning, so the very latest on that. And if you've got pictures of babies in Christmas outfits, we're sharing them on the telly this morning at Burley. Send them to me.